welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to do my worst books of 2021. I hope you don't mind that this video and the best books of 2021 are going to come a little late. It is what it is. I don't know. I have no excuse and I also don't care. So here it is. If you want to watch it, watch it. Little disclaimer, we're all adults here. If I don't like your favorite book, it's chill. We can still be friends. No issues. I'm not judging you. I don't care. These are just the books that I thought were terrible. And if you think they're good, good for you. So the range of these books is kind of like, I don't care about them really, to the worst books I read this year. I only had 2 1-star books this year. So a lot of these are 2 stars and I have 1 3-star. I read a lot of 3 stars this year, but this 1 3-star, and we'll start off with it. It is The Power by Naomi Alderman. This is a specific 3-star that I wanted to add to this list because I just don't think this book is good or deserves the praise that it has gotten for many years. One day, like, the women wake up and they realize that they have this power of electricity, and it's kind of examining how power is the issue of our society, and essentially whether it would be women or men in power, they would take advantage of the situation. Anyways, I have a lot of extremely conflicting thoughts on this book. I do want to say that I think Alderman did a really great job with the characters and the plot. I think it was engaging. It did keep me reading for the entire book, and it has charmed thousands of people into reading this book and enjoying it overall. Like, Barack Obama loves this book. I just don't think that this novel really does anything to combat the topics that it is discussing. The roles and the power structures one day when the young girls wake up and they have these powers is reversed. It's put into motion where the women have the power to control society, to control the rules, to control what happens. And while I could really appreciate this topic, really appreciate this premise and understand what Naomi Alderman was going for, I don't think she actually does anything with this premise. The novel worked to show essentially that any gender given power will work in destructive ways, and was showing how women are treated currently in society by showing these women do it to men. But that's really where the exploration ended, where the discussion surrounding dominant genders and power stops. Yes, obviously power corrupts people, but how do we solve this innate issue in humans? Women given power turn just as evil as men who have power. Okay, but what can this world that Naomi Alderman created do to rectify or solve this issue? What discussions are we trying to have here? It felt super anticlimactic to me because I just felt that Alderman built up this idea and concept without going into any of the intricacies. The main point of the book is to show how women are treated, but as a woman in current society and as a woman today, I know how women are treated. I'm treated like this every day. So this definitely in the end felt like a book that was created for the masses, created for white feminism. There was no discussion on a multitude of intersecting topics, and I just think that it was weakly done. And for a novel that is reaching a lot of the masses, I just feel like it's extremely basic. I'm sorry, Naomi Alderman, but I just find that there needs to be more of a nuanced discussion that needs to be looked at. In 6th place, we have White Sand Volume 1, 2, and 3. I'm just gonna put all of them because I do definitely feel like this is Brandon Sanderson's weakest thing. So this also takes place in the Cosmere, which is why I read it. This is Brandon Sanderson's, I think, first foray into graphic novels, and I was extremely excited to read a graphic novel from Brandon Sanderson. I absolutely love his works. I love his world building. I love his magic system. So I just thought that these would be beneficial things to a comic book format that I would enjoy. Alas, that was not the case. I didn't enjoy any of these 3 volumes. I think I gave the first 2 stars, the last one 3 stars because it finally wrapped up, and it could be a mix of I was very glad for it to end, and it might have been better than the others. We'll never know. We'll never know. I'm unsure why I was so incredibly bored and disappointed by these books. I think after a full year of looking back and thinking about this, I think Brandon Sanderson's writing just does not transcend into the graphic novel format. I think Brandon Sanderson does well to have an intrinsic plot and topic that is discussed and contained within each of his individual novels, even though they are series. And I think that that's where it falters as well, because the story is constantly being cut due to the fact that it is in multiple issues or multiple volumes, and therefore the story itself never feels complete, and I think that feels weird for Brandon Sanderson. The dialogue also felt incredibly rusty, and I think that that is because it's a graphic novel, so a lot of the plot we're relying on the dialogue, and because Brandon Sanderson is so incredibly engaged with world building and stuff like that, there's a lot of things that are discussed and brought up through dialogue or through thoughts, and it just felt disjointed. It didn't feel complete to me. I also really didn't like the artwork. I found the artwork to be boring. Like, I just found everything about these books boring. And you could be like, yeah, they're about a guy who lives in sand. Touche. Like, I don't know what else to say. I just didn't enjoy them. Do I feel like you need to read them because of the Cosmere, though? A little bit. Like, I think these characters do appear in other elements of, whether it's Brandon Sanderson's novellas, they do appear in Bands of Mourning, as a little spoiler. Obviously, I haven't caught up with the Way of Kings series, but I'm assuming that they would have a role there somehow, somewhere. I do think they're kind of important. This is like an introduction to who they are, what they're doing, the powers that they have. So like, yeah, but would I recommend it like just for fun? No. Then the fifth book we have is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. Listen, I didn't like this book. I don't think it's... This feels like one of my most controversial opinions ever, and I hated Dune. I literally don't even think I have one friend that did not like this book. I think my boy Carlos is a really good writer, obviously. The plot, the overall mystery of the story was engaging. I was loving this book at the beginning, but I have a lot of issues with the way things are discussed and brought up and spoken about in the novel that really ruined my experience. I could not get into it because of these other factors. The book, in my opinion, is riddled with sexism and mistreatment of every female character that is on the page. And to me, the female characters are really placed in the novel to become like soulless shells that just advance the male characters' plots. Every single woman in the book doesn't really have a role that does not revolve around one of the other male characters. There is no woman in this book has her own agency at all. They're all either in love with Julian or Daniel. Like, really, they're whatever. When I finished this novel, I was really surprised by the lack of discussions that surround the rampant misogyny in this book. And maybe it bothered me more than others, but I really felt like misogyny and the mistreatment of women and the degrading of women was pretty prevalent, and I felt like it was on every page. So it was kind of an annoyance in the beginning where I was kind of able to like push past it. You know, you see misogyny every day, you're like, whatever, you check out, you know? But it turned into me literally not being able to see past it. I ended up really hating the book because of this. Like, it was so hard to find things that I enjoy, and despite knowing that there's good writing and a good plot. And I understand that the book is set in the 1900s. However, the book was written in 2001. So I think, yes, I understand that that's 20 years ago, but I still feel like there could have been some sort of nuance or discussion, or at least care to show how women were treated at the time of the setting of the story. I have read historical fiction that goes back into time, during times when women did not have rights, were not important, and those books take the time, or at least the care, to address these things, have actual discussions, or at least show that it's not right. It was never right. And you can say like, Kelsey, the point of the book is not to discuss like the way women are treated in Barcelona in the 1900s, and like, okay, fine. But then I can make the same argument asking, why then are women just there to be villainized and sexualized on literally every single page? Literally. There's one character where his only role is to talk about having sex with girls. Like, it's weird. It's so prevalent and so obvious to me, because if you would remove every single female character out of the book, the plot would have stayed exactly the same. It was so tiring to me. If you enjoy this book, I don't want to take away this experience from you. I know everybody absolutely adores this book. And as mentioned, like the writing and the descriptions of the novel were incredibly beautiful. I see what people enjoy about it, but I just could not put past the issues. Like, not for me. After that rant, we have Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was really surprising to me. I read it pretty recently, actually. It might have been November, and I was really looking forward to reading Taylor Jenkins Reid's debut novel. As you have probably seen in some of my best books lists, I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have Malibu Rising on my best books, spoiler. So I think she is an incredibly talented writer, and I wanted to check out her debut novel, and I was left incredibly disappointed. This book is meant to showcase moving forward and moving on with one's lives after a tragic death of the main character's husband, but I think that that message gets convoluted within the book. And I think it's especially because the relationship that Elsie, the main character, and her husband have is incredibly messy, and when you start to read more and more and discover elements of their relationship, like, it was incredibly fast and messy, and it just didn't make sense. The novel is split in moments in the future where Elsie loses her husband and is going through the ropes and like learning how to deal with his death, and then before they start dating. And it's those moments that I feel like are really weak. I feel like they just did not make sense as a couple. Elsie was incredibly self-centered, insecure, and jealous for someone that she's only been dating for like 2 weeks. And it's weird because I'm supposed to, or readers are supposed to sympathize with the main character, but I actually couldn't stand her at all. And I think if you like Elsie, or you are meant to like Elsie and Ben, or Ben, whoever, you would end up enjoying this book more. I would have ended up enjoying this book more. And I know and I understand that the love story in this book is supposed to feel rushed, and it's supposed to feel like crazy and like romantic and blah, blah, blah. But that just made me like, I could not buy into that relationship at all. It just didn't make sense, especially because they were so terrible to each other. The writing is not what I've come to expect from Taylor Jenkins Reid. And given that it's her debut novel, obviously, like, I'll let that slide, whatever. It didn't affect my reading that much. And I was gonna give this novel 1 star. I ended up giving it 2 stars because there's this like really sweet story with an old man, and they like really pull at my heartstrings, you know? So I gave it 2 stars. But yeah, I really didn't enjoy that one at all either. Then in 3rd place, we have an author who has made it consistently to my list 2 years in a row, and that's my own fault because I continue to read the books. This is Harvest of Sighs by Sierra Simone, part of the Thorn Chapel series, a series that I loved. The first book, I loved it. It was smutty, dark academia, sexy, fucked up shit, and I loved it. And then the fucked up shit got a little too fucked up in the 2nd book, and I was like, you know what? It made my worst books of the year. I think it was my worst book of the year last year, 2020, possibly. And I was like, you know what? It can't get worse from here. It can't. Sierra Simone wouldn't do that to her readers. She can't. She can't. And I'm gonna mention the trigger warning. It is spoiling the book, but I think it's important to know that this book particularly romanticizes incest a lot. So I had faith in Sierra Simone that this would be like remedied in book 3. I'm like, there's no way she could do that. There's no way she would leave it like that. She did leave it like that. And in fact, it continued in this book. And at the beginning of this video, I said, if you like these books, I don't care. No, I don't get how you like this book. People are giving this 5 stars, and like there's all kinds of like gifts and all kinds of shit on romance roses. That's all I see in these 5-star reviews, and I am shook. I'm shook. What? Why? The other characters in this series are really interesting. I really like them. It's this particular aspect of the book that I think is just a disgusting, and I said this in my worst books of 2020, that I think it's just a disgusting thing for Sierra Simone to do, to like make you fall in love with these characters in the first book and then be like, incest. And you're like, what? Shocking. It's truly shocking to me. I also found the writing in this one to be a bit weaker than the first 2. Take that with a grain of salt, because I don't know if I'm going into with this negative view. Like, I'm looking back at these books and I'm like, they're weaker. They're not as good as the first one. Her writing is probably the same, so take that with a grain of salt. But I just think Sierra Simone is doing such a shitty thing, and the fact that you have to wait to see if it's not true, but like read over these sex scenes, but anyways, in 2nd place, we have something that makes me really sad. And even when I had written my review for this advanced reader copy at the time when it was, this is Magic Mutant Nightmare Girl by Erin Grammer, and I really did not like this book. Like I mentioned, it made me really sad to give an arc an extremely low rating. It is one of my 2 1-star books of the year. But my biggest complaint about the novel was just that everything felt so off, so off. The plot was extremely fast-paced, and that was the book's detriment. I felt as though things were being told to me, things were happening without any real explanations, and then we're suddenly thrust into a murder mystery. Like, it was really like my mind was going at 5,000 miles per second. In addition to this, Holly, the main character, develops superpowers, which forces her to meet this group of people that she suddenly adores and loves, and they're everything to her, that she's in such a short span. Like, the book is only 290 pages. Like, it was really like it did not make sense. And for like time's sake in the novel, I believe it was 3 days, which is crazy to develop such a strong and emotional attachment to. It made the novel really hard to understand, that these relationships were really coming out of nowhere. The powers weren't explained, like I mentioned, like nothing was being explained to me. You're kind of just along for the ride, really. The characters themselves felt really one-dimensional and flat, and I feel like none of them really had their own personality other than their surface level like role in the book. And Holly, as a main character, she was so hard to deal with. Usually I love flawed characters, but that's because there's always like a reason behind the fact that they're flawed, right? And that's what makes their character development and the book interesting. But I didn't feel like Holly had any reason to be genuinely unkind. Like, she was just an unkind person. Her actions were completely invalid and irrational. There was like one scene where she pushed a gender identity and sexuality onto 2 characters because they live together, like they're friends. And it was extremely like gross to read about, to be honest. And the book is kind of allotted to having this LGBTQIA plus rep when I don't think it's that good. There's the issue with this like fetishization that happened, and I also found the bi-POC rep to be a tad problematic as well. And though I cannot speak for that rep, it did make me feel uncomfortable, so I would be interested in looking at other reviews on that matter. All in all, this was like a nice cover, a really cool premise at the time when I had requested it, but that's really all it was. I was so fucking disappointed, fed up with this book. Like, thank God it was 290 pages and like flew through, because... And now we have my least favorite book of the year. To no one's surprise, especially Hanani, it is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. The worst book I read this year, and the book that makes me the most angry. Oh my God. Is this book disgusting and boring? Holy shit. We'll get into like the boring parts first before we talk about the problematic stuff. The pacing is incredibly off in this book. It's so boring. You're flip-flopping in between 2 perspectives. So the first perspective follows this detective who I hate. And then you're also following a like space group, and they like find something that they didn't want to find on like an abandoned planet or spaceship or whatever the fuck. That's why the detective comes in, because he's like supposed to help them solve this mystery. So you have like these 2 perspectives, okay? For being a mystery, this was so fucking boring. Oh my God, the pacing was so off. A lot of reviews I saw, people were like, wow, you can never tell like James S.A. Corey is 2 people. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Holy shit. The writing is so vastly different. It really feels like 2 books were just like plopped together, and we just have to like deal with it and pretend like as if this was an interesting fucking story and the writing was amazing. Holden is the main character of like the space crew, and you know what? I liked his character. But like things happen to him. Like, he's really much like a like stoic guy, and like things happen to him, and he's supposed to be a leader, but he's like always conflicted, and like he doesn't know what he's doing. Cool. The second main character, Miller, Detective Miller. If I ever read from this fucking man's perspective again, I'm out of here. The fact that I feel like almost nobody talks about how this detective sexualizes can I go into spoilers? I'm going into spoilers. Spoilers, just let me bitch, please. Okay, so from the beginning, there's this girl that's missing. She is like poisoned by this fucking alien shit, okay? Detective Miller is like, I'm gonna solve this. I'm gonna like figure out who this girl is, blah, blah, blah. And over the course of the book, he's falling in love with this missing girl. Okay? He's falling in love with her. Every day he talks to her like as if she's next to him. He's like, my Julie. What the fuck? Your Julie? When did you meet? What? how did you didn't even know who she was until you were assigned to her missing persons case? Like, I really don't understand how people don't talk about this. It was so disgusting. I was listening to this on audio, and every day, I heard him say, "My Julie." He hadn't even found her yet, doesn't know if she's alive. Like whatever, I understand the plot. I know what's happening to Detective Miller, okay? I'm not stupid. But if I could never hear this detective say "my Julie" ever again, it still wouldn't be enough. I wish I could fucking erase this novel from my brain, because you know what? It was so bad and I hated it so much that it sticks here. It stays. And I have to think about this sometimes randomly, and I hate it. And I hate this book. I wish I never read it. The people who enjoy it, happy for you. The people who loved the Expanse show, happy for you. You know what? Maybe Detective Miller is a bit better in the show. Maybe I'm over exaggerating. I don't know. But this was disgusting to me. To think, bleh, bleh. That's it. Those are my feelings about this book. Bleh. So that's it. Those are all the books I did not like this year. My worst books of the year. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had at least a laugh. Remember, we're still friends, okay? I don't judge you if you like this book, except one. Remember, all of this is for fun. All of this is jokes. Please don't take my freakouts and barfing noises seriously. Because I don't care if you like these books, so don't worry about it. If you've hated these books as well, please let me know down below in the comments. And if you've loved these books, please don't fight with me in the comments. Thanks. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. And also, because it is the end of the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Obviously, like I tell you every time, I appreciate it so much. I love it. Thank you so much if you do. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, and I guess this is my ending saying anyways. I don't know. I'll see you next time. My best books of the year. Bye.